The skies over New York City crackled with energy as the alien ship descended through the atmosphere. On the ground, tanks rolled into position and fighter jets screamed overhead. It was humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life, and it was happening in the middle of World War II. Ambassador Zixel of the Galactic Confederation stood at the bridge of the ship, his tentacles waving in anticipation. "Look at them," he gurgled to his second-in-command. "Fighting amongst themselves even as we arrive. Primitives, just as our probes indicated." As the ship touched down in Central Park, the sounds of distant explosions echoed across the city. The alien delegation emerged, their environmental suits gleaming in the sun. They expected to be greeted by cowering primitives or aggressive savages. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by a hastily assembled group of world leaders, scientists, and military personnel from various nations. The humans stood united, their recent conflicts seemingly forgotten in the face of this monumental event. Zixel blinked his three eyes in confusion. "This is unexpected," he muttered. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's chosen representative, stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "We are honored by your presence." The aliens were taken aback by the polished greeting and the sudden show of unity. This wasn't part of their plan. They had expected to find an easy world to add to their confederation, not a species capable of setting aside global conflict at a moment's notice. As the day progressed, the aliens were given a tour of New York City. They marveled at the skyscrapers, confused by architecture that seemed both primitive and oddly advanced. Zixel noticed how quickly the signs of conflict were being cleared away, as if the humans were trying to hide evidence of their war. "Tell me," Zixel asked Dr. Rodriguez, "how long did it take your species to achieve peace?" Elena's smile didn't waver. "We're still working on it, but we're quick learners." The alien ambassador's unease grew. These humans were proving to be more complex than anticipated. The day culminated in a grand diplomatic dinner held at the United Nations. As world leaders and alien dignitaries sat down to eat, Zixel noticed something disturbing on the menu. "Is this animal flesh?" he asked, his voice rising in pitch. Elena nodded, not understanding the alien's distress. "Yes, we've prepared a variety of Earth's finest cuisines, including several meat dishes. Is there a problem?" The alien delegation erupted in a flurry of agitated clicks and whistles. In their culture, consuming the flesh of another creature was seen as an act of barbarism, reserved only for the most primitive of species. "You're carnivores?" Zixel asked, his voice a mix of disgust and fear. "Omnivores, actually," Elena corrected. "We can eat a variety off." But the ambassador wasn't listening. He was too busy reassessing everything he thought he knew about humans, a species that could unite so quickly, that built towering cities, that explored the stars, and still retained the predatory instinct to consume other life forms. As the dinner proceeded awkwardly, Zixel conferred with his team. They had come expecting to find a world ripe for easy integration into the Galactic Confederation. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a species that defied their expectations at every turn. In the shadows of the banquet hall, General Zhang Wei of China caught the eye of President Kimberly Hayes of the United States. A silent understanding passed between them. Whatever their differences, humanity needed to present a united front to these aliens. As Elena tried to salvage the diplomatic disaster unfolding over dinner, she couldn't help but notice the shift in the aliens' demeanor. The condescension was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Little did the aliens know, their arrival had not only united humanity, but had also awakened something primal within the species. The game of interstellar politics had begun, and humans, the apex predators of Earth, were ready to play. As the night wore on, both humans and aliens retired to their respective quarters, each side reevaluating their initial impressions. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new misunderstandings, and perhaps the first true test of humanity's place in the galaxy. For now, though, Earth slept fitfully, its dreams filled with stars and the promise of a future no one could have predicted. The deceptive welcome was over. The true nature of humanity was about to be revealed to the cosmos. The massive space station loomed before the human delegation, a twisted labyrinth of alien metal and pulsing energy fields. Known as the Nexus, it served as the Galactic Confederation's testing ground for new species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the viewport of the transport ship, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Impressive, isn't it? Ambassador Zixel gurgled, his tentacles waving in what Elena had learned was a gesture of smug satisfaction. Many species find the integration gauntlet challenging, but I'm sure you'll do your best. Elena caught the condescension in his tone but chose to ignore it. We're looking forward to it, she replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. As they docked, Elena's team assembled. Major Sarah Connor, a hardened military strategist, Dr. Raj Patel, a brilliant physicist, and Zhao Li, a teenage prodigy in xenobiology. They had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to think outside the box, a trait humans were quickly realizing was rare in the galaxy. The alien guide, a spindly creature named Vex, led them into the Nexus. The gauntlet consists of a series of challenges designed to test your species' capabilities, it explained. Most newcomers take weeks to complete it. The record is 5 days, set by the Arcturians. Sarah raised an eyebrow. What's the prize for beating that record? Vex's translator crackled with what might have been laughter. Oh, young species and their competitive nature. How quaint. The first challenge was a logic puzzle. The team found themselves in a room with a holographic display of interconnected nodes. Recreate the evolutionary path of your species, Vex instructed. You have 1 hour. While most species approached this linearly, the humans immediately began working backwards and forwards simultaneously. Raj focused on the distant past, Elena on recent history, and Joe on potential future evolutions. Sarah, meanwhile, kept an eye on the bigger picture, ensuring their work remained cohesive. Vex watched in growing confusion as the humans argued, laughed, and built upon each other's ideas. When they finished, in just 40 minutes, the alien was speechless. Is that a projected future where humans have integrated cybernetic enhancements? It asked, pointing at one node. Oh, that. Joe grinned. Just a little something I'm working on in my spare time. The next challenge involved navigating the zero-gravity maze while solving complex mathematical equations. The aliens expected the humans to struggle, but they hadn't counted on humanity's love affair with extreme sports. Sarah, drawing on her zero-combat training, led the charge. She called out directions while Raj solved equations in his head, calling back solutions. Elena and Joe worked on pattern recognition, predicting the maze's twists and turns. They emerged on the other side in record time, breathless but exhilarated. The observing aliens murmured in disbelief. How did you? That's not. Vex's translator seemed to be having trouble keeping up with its flustered state. Oh, you know, Sarah shrugged, trying to hide a smirk. Just a little teamwork. As they progressed through more challenges, tests of strength, endurance, creativity, and adaptability, a pattern emerged. The humans weren't just completing the tasks, they were revolutionizing them, approaching each problem from angles the Galactic Confederation had never considered. In one memorable instance, tasked with building a shelter on a simulated hostile planet, the team created not just a functional base, but a thriving ecosystem. Joe's understanding of alien biology allowed them to introduce symbiotic relationships between the local flora and their construction, creating a self-sustaining environment. That wasn't the point of the exercise. Vex protested weakly. No, Elena agreed, but isn't it better? By the end of the first day, the human team had completed challenges that were supposed to take a week. The observing aliens were in an uproar. Some demanded the tests be recalibrated, claiming they must be too easy. Others watched the humans with growing unease, recognizing the potential threat they posed. As the team retired to their assigned quarters, exhausted but proud, Alina overheard two aliens discussing in what they thought was a private channel. "This can't be right," one was saying. "They're from a backwater planet. They shouldn't be able to do this." "Maybe," the other replied. "We've underestimated them. Maybe they're not what we thought they were." Alina smiled to herself as she drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was confident now. Humanity wasn't just ready for the galactic stage. They were about to steal the show. Little did they know, their performance in the gauntlet was sending shockwaves through the Galactic Confederation. In the highest echelons of alien society, urgent meetings were being called. The question on everyone's mind: what do we do about the humans? The success of the human team in the integration gauntlet had not gone unnoticed. In a secure chamber deep within the Nexus, the Galactic Confederation's High Council convened an emergency session. "These humans are problematic," declared Arch-Counselor Zinfar, his crystalline form shimmering with agitation. "They're progressing too quickly. We must test their limits." Ambassador Zixel, now tasked with overseeing the human trials, bobbed nervously. "What do you propose, Arch-Counselor?" Zinthar's facets gleamed ominously. "The adaptive trials. Let's see how they handle rapid change." Alina and her team were led to a massive dome-shaped chamber. The walls shimmered with an otherworldly energy, and the floor seemed to shift beneath their feet. Vex, their alien guide, explained with poorly concealed anticipation. "This is the Morpheus Chamber. It can simulate any environment in the known galaxy. Your task is simple: survive." Before the humans could respond, the chamber hummed to life. The air shimmered, and suddenly they were standing on a planet with crushing gravity, the atmosphere thick and barely breathable. Sarah immediately took charge. "Everyone down. Crawl, don't walk." The team dropped to their stomachs, distributing their weight. Raj, wheezing but thinking quickly, started ripping strips from his uniform. "Makeshift pressure bands," he gasped, wrapping the strips tightly around their limbs and torsos. "Should help with blood flow." Alina, her mind racing, recalled an old sci-fi novel. "Guys, remember Dune. Try to move without rhythm. It might conserve energy." The aliens watching were baffled by the reference, but amazed at how quickly the humans adapted their movements. Just as the team was getting accustomed to the high gravity, the environment shifted again. They found themselves in a blindingly bright desert, twin suns beating down mercilessly. Zhao, the teenage prodigy, sprang into action. He quickly fashioned makeshift sunshades from parts of their uniforms and directed the team to create a solar still using the condensation from their breath. "Smart kid," Sarah grunted, impressed. The environments continued to change rapidly. A water world with crushing depths, an ice planet with howling winds, a volcanic landscape with toxic air. With each shift, the humans adjusted, innovated, and survived. In the observation room, the alien council watched in disbelief. "How are they doing this?" One counselor chittered. "No species has ever adapted so quickly." Zixel, despite his earlier misgivings, felt a strange pride in his humans. "They call it crisis thinking. Apparently, they do their best work under pressure." The final shift brought a new challenge. The humans found themselves in a lush, Earth-like forest. After the extreme environments, it seemed almost too pleasant. Alina's eyes narrowed. "Stay alert. This feels off." As if on cue, a distant roar echoed through the trees. Something large was moving towards them. Fast. Sarah grinned, a predatory glint in her eye. Finally, some action. What emerged from the forest was a nightmarish amalgamation of Earth's most dangerous predators. The size of a T-Rex, with the speed of a cheetah and the problem-solving skills of a primate. The alien observers leaned forward, certain they were about to witness the humans' defeat. Instead, they watched in awe as the team sprang into action with practiced coordination. Sarah and Elena acted as decoys, using complex flanking maneuvers that seemed almost choreographed. Meanwhile, Raj and Joe quickly constructed a trap using vines and their remaining equipment. Within minutes, the mighty beast was immobilized, and the humans stood victorious, breathing hard but exhilarated. In the observation room, stunned silence reigned. Then, a slow clap started. It was Arch-Counselor Zinfar. "Remarkable," he mused. "They don't just survive, they dominate." As the humans were led out of the chamber, congratulating each other and already discussing improvements to their strategies, a young alien child who had been watching the trials tugged on its parent's tentacle. "What's that game they mentioned earlier?" "Tag," the child asked curiously. The parent, distracted, absent-mindedly pulled up the Earth database. As they read the description of the game, humans chasing each other for fun, sometimes for hours, their color drained. "By the cosmic void," the parent whispered. They're persistence predators, and they do it for entertainment." The news spread quickly through the Nexus. Humans, it seemed, were not just adaptable. They were born hunters, evolved to outlast and outsmart their prey. And now, they had their sights set on the stars. As Elena and her team rested, unaware of the stir they had caused, Ambassador Zixel received an urgent message from the High Council. The humans, it seemed, were to be placed under close observation. They were no longer seen as just potential allies. They were now a potential threat. The Galactic Confederation's High Council was in turmoil. The humans' performance in the physical trials had been unprecedented, and now they faced a dilemma. "We must test their mental fortitude," insisted Counselor Vrelix, her gelatinous form quivering with intensity. "Surely their minds cannot be as resilient as their bodies." Arch-Counselor Zinfar nodded gravely. "Agreed. Prepare the Psyche Labyrinth." Elena and her team were led to a sterile white room. The alien guide, Vex, seemed unusually nervous. "This trial is different," Vex explained. "You'll be subjected to psychological stimuli designed to test your mental resilience. Many species find it distressing." Sarah smirked. "Bring it on. We've got some experience with SIUPs." As the team entered the chamber, they were immediately separated by invisible barriers. Each found themselves alone in a featureless white space. The tests began subtly. For Elena, the temperature began to drop, the air filling with a familiar scent, her childhood home during a harsh winter. She heard her parents arguing in the distance, an old fear creeping up her spine. For Raj, complex mathematical equations appeared in the air around him, shifting and changing faster than he could solve them. He felt the crushing weight of failure, of letting down his brilliant family. Zhao found himself in a lecture hall, facing a panel of stern-faced aliens. They fired rapid questions about xenobiology, each more obscure than the last. The feeling of inadequacy, of being a fraud, threatened to overwhelm him. Sarah's environment transformed into a war-torn landscape, filled with the cries of wounded comrades. The ghosts of past missions, of lives she couldn't save, pressed in around her. In the observation room, the alien council watched intently, waiting for the humans to break. But something unexpected happened. Elena, shivering in her illusory winter, began to hum a lullaby. The sound seemed to warm the air around her, and she stood straighter, facing her fears head-on. Raj closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to laugh. "You know," he said to the empty air, "there's beauty in unsolved problems, too." He began to play with the equations, combining them in new, creative ways. Zhao, facing his imposter syndrome, straightened his back. "I may not know everything," he declared to his illusory judges, "but I have a lifetime to learn. And I will." He began to ask the panel questions of his own, turning the tables on his fears. Sarah, surrounded by the horrors of war, didn't run. Instead, she knelt and began to speak, naming each fallen comrade, honoring their memory. "We carry on," she said firmly. "For them. The alien observers were baffled. "They're adapting to the psychological stress," one asked incredulously. Ambassador Zixel, who had been studying Earth culture, offered an insight. "They have a concept called facing your fears. It seems they believe confronting their terrors makes them stronger." As the trials continued, the humans displayed an uncanny ability to not just endure but to thrive under psychological pressure. They shared deeply personal stories, used humor to diffuse tension, and even turned some of the fear scenarios into impromptu brainstorming sessions for scientific breakthroughs. Vex, monitoring the humans' vital signs, was astounded. "Their stress levels are decreasing. They're actually enjoying this." The final test was perhaps the most insidious. Each human was presented with a vision of Earth, destroyed by an alien armada. They were offered a choice: join the Galactic Confederation fully, forsaking their humanity, or watch their world burn. The Council leaned forward, certain that this ultimate fear would break them. Instead, the humans' responses left them stunned. Elena spoke first, her voice steady. "Our humanity isn't something we wear. It's who we are. We'd rebuild, we'd remember, and we'd come back stronger." Raj nodded. "You can't erase an idea. Earth isn't just a place. It's a concept. We carry it with us." "Plus," Zhao added with a grin, "bold of you to assume we don't have contingency plans for planetary evacuation." Sarah's response was perhaps the most chilling. She smiled, a predator's grin, and said simply, "If our world burns, we'll make sure the galaxy burns with it. You might win, but you'd never know peace again." As the simulations faded and the team was reunited, they found themselves facing a panel of visibly shaken alien counselors. Arch-Counselor Zinfar's voice trembled slightly as he addressed them. "You have surpassed all expectations. But I must ask, those scenarios, the fears you faced, are all humans like you?" Elena exchanged glances with her team, then turned back to the council with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Why don't you tell us a scary story?" she suggested, "and we'll show you what humans find frightening." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The psychological edge, it seemed, belonged firmly to humanity. The Galactic Confederation's High Council was in a state of near panic. The humans had surpassed every challenge thrown at them, demonstrating physical prowess, adaptability, and psychological resilience beyond anything they had encountered before. There must be a way to destabilize them, hissed Counselor Drazkan, his scaled skin rippling with agitation. "Every species has its weaknesses, its internal divisions." Arch-Counselor Zinfar's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps we've been looking at this the wrong way. Instead of trying to break them, let's see how they handle expansion." Elena and her team were summoned to the Nexus's Grand Assembly Hall. There, they found a surprise. Dozens of other humans from various nations, cultures, and backgrounds. Ambassador Zixel addressed the gathered humans, his tentacles twitching with what Elena now recognized as nervous excitement. "Your species has impressed us," he announced. "We believe you're ready for a greater challenge. You will form teams representing Earth's diversity and face our most elite alien champions." The humans glanced at each other, a mix of excitement and wariness on their faces. Elena felt a twinge of concern. While she was proud of Earth's diversity, she also knew its history of conflicts and misunderstandings. The teams were quickly assembled, deliberately mixing cultures, religions, and ideologies that had historically been at odds. Elena found herself leading a team that included Yuki, a Japanese tech expert, Amir, a Saudi Arabian diplomat, Zara, a Kenyan environmental scientist, and Ivan, a Russian ex-military strategist. As they were led to the challenge arena, Elena overheard two alien observers chittering excitedly. "This should be interesting," one said. "Their historical databases show these groupings have led to conflict in the past." "Indeed," the other replied. "I expect we'll see the true divided nature of humanity now." Elena smirked to herself. They were in for a surprise. The challenge arena was a massive, holographically generated cityscape. Each human team would face off against a group of alien champions, with the objective of capturing a series of strategic points throughout the city. As the simulation began, the aliens watched eagerly, expecting to see the human teams fall into disarray or compete against each other. Instead, they witnessed something extraordinary. Alina's team moved with a synchronicity that belied their diverse backgrounds. Yuki's technological expertise complemented Ivan's strategic mind, allowing them to hack into the city's systems and predict enemy movements. Amir's diplomatic skills came into play as he negotiated temporary alliances with other human teams, creating a united front against the alien champions. Zara's environmental knowledge proved crucial in navigating the city's complex ecosystem, giving them unexpected shortcuts and advantages. But it wasn't just Alina's team that was excelling. Across the arena, human teams were displaying a level of cooperation and adaptability that left the alien observers stunned. A team combining Brazilian capoeira experts, Indian yoga masters, and Chinese Muay Thai fighters developed a hybrid fighting style on the fly, overwhelming their alien opponents with unpredictable movements. Another group, consisting of an Inuit hunter, an Australian Aboriginal tracker, and an Amazonian shaman, used their combined knowledge of natural environments to turn the urban landscape to their advantage, setting traps and using the terrain in ways the aliens never anticipated. In the observation room, the Alien Council watched in growing disbelief. "This doesn't make sense," Counselor Drazkun sputtered. "Their history shows centuries of conflict between these cultures. How can they work together so seamlessly?" Ambassador Zixel, who had spent the most time studying humans, offered an insight. "They have a saying on Earth, unity in diversity. It seems that when faced with an external challenge, humans have a remarkable ability to set aside their differences and combine their strengths." As the challenge progressed, it became clear that the humans weren't just cooperating. They were actively learning from each other, incorporating diverse techniques and viewpoints to create strategies that evolved rapidly. The alien champions, despite their superior technology and physical abilities, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. The humans' unpredictable combinations of skills and tactics left them constantly off balance. In a final, decisive move, all human teams coordinated in a complex maneuver that involved elements from dozens of Earth cultures: African drum communications, Native American smoke signals, European military tactics, and Asian martial arts, all seamlessly blended into a single devastating assault. The alien champions were defeated, and the human teams stood victorious, laughing, congratulating each other, and already exchanging ideas for future collaborations. As the simulation ended, Alina turned to address the stunned Alien Council. "You thought our diversity was a weakness," she said, her voice carrying a hint of steel beneath its diplomatic tone. "But it's our greatest strength. Every challenge we've faced on Earth, every conflict we've overcome, it's all been preparation for this. We don't just adapt, we evolve, together." The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity hadn't just passed another test. They had demonstrated a potential for growth and adaptation that was truly terrifying on a galactic scale. As the human teams left the arena, already deep in animated discussions about combining their various skills and knowledge, the Alien Council sat in stunned silence. They had sought to divide humanity, to expose its weaknesses. Instead, they had unlocked its true potential. The Galactic Confederation was in crisis. Humanity's performance in the trials had surpassed all expectations, leaving the alien races in a state of shock and growing apprehension. In a desperate bid to maintain their perceived superiority, the High Council made a fateful decision. "We must guide their technological growth," Arch-Counselor Zinfar declared. "By controlling their access to advanced science, we can ensure they remain manageable." Little did they know, this decision would backfire spectacularly. Alina and her team were led into a vast chamber filled with holographic displays of various alien technologies. Ambassador Zixel, now visibly nervous in the humans' presence, addressed them. As a gesture of goodwill, we'll be granting you access to some of our more basic technologies, he explained, emphasizing the word basic in a way that made Alina's eyes narrow slightly. Raj, the physicist, could barely contain his excitement as he approached a display showing the principles of antimatter containment. Basic, you say? He murmured, his mind already racing with possibilities. The aliens had carefully selected technologies they deemed safe, propulsion systems a few centuries ahead of Earth's current capabilities, some rudimentary energy weapons, and basic force field generators. Nothing, they thought, that could pose a significant threat if misused. What followed was a technological revolution that would go down in galactic history. Within hours, Raj had not only grasped the principles of antimatter containment, but had begun sketching out improvements. If we adjust the magnetic field like so, he explained to a stunned alien scientist, we could increase efficiency by at least 200%. Yuki, the Japanese tech expert who had shown in the previous challenge, dove into the alien computer systems. By the end of the day, she had created an interface that allowed seamless integration between Earth and alien tech, something the Confederation had deemed impossible due to the vast differences in their basic computing philosophies. Zhao, the young xenobiology prodigy, took one look at the medical technologies on offer and immediately began cross-referencing them with Earth's vast biodiversity. We could revolutionize medicine, he exclaimed, his eyes shining with possibilities. Imagine combining this with the regenerative properties of Earth's axolotl. But it was Sarah, the military strategist, who truly terrified the observing aliens. Given access to basic shield technology, she quickly conceptualized its potential for both defensive and offensive applications in ways the peace-loving Confederation had never considered. If we can modulate the shield frequency rapidly, she mused, we could create a cutting edge of pure energy. Theoretically, it could slice through any known material. As the day progressed, the alien observers watched in growing horror as the humans not only mastered the offered technologies, but began to improve upon them in ways that should have taken decades, if not centuries. In the observation room, panic was setting in. How is this possible? Counselor Drazkon hissed. We gave them children's toys, and they're building weapons of mass destruction. Ambassador Zixel, who had been studying human history, offered a chilling insight. Their history is filled with rapid technological leaps, often driven by conflict. They call their most significant advancements revolutionary for a reason. This is just how they innovate. The situation came to a head when Alina approached the Alien Council with a proposal. We appreciate the technologies you've shared, she said, her tone diplomatically masking the irony of her words. In return, we'd like to offer some of our own advancements. The aliens were speechless as Alina laid out a series of innovations that combined their basic tech with human ingenuity in ways they had never imagined. Faster than light travel using principles of quantum entanglement. Energy production methods that could power entire solar systems. Medical techniques that could potentially extend lifespans indefinitely. Of course, Alina added with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, we'll need to test these advancements. We're thinking of building a few prototype ships to explore some nearby star systems. Just for scientific purposes, you understand. The implications hung heavy in the air. In trying to control humanity's growth, the Galactic Confederation had inadvertently catapulted them to the forefront of galactic science. And now, armed with this knowledge, humans were poised to strike out into the stars on their own terms. As Alina and her team left to begin work on their new projects, the Alien Council sat in stunned silence. They had sought to leash humanity's potential. Instead, they had handed them the keys to the galaxy. Arch-Counselor Zinfar's crystalline form seemed to age centuries as he turned to his fellow council members. Alert all sectors, he said, his voice heavy with foreboding. The humans are coming. The Galactic Confederation was in a state of barely controlled panic. Humanity's rapid technological advancements had upset the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. In a desperate attempt to contain the situation, the High Council resorted to a drastic measure. "We must isolate them," Arch-Counselor Zinthar declared. "Find the most inhospitable world in the sector and strand them there. Perhaps then, they will learn their place." Little did they know, they were about to witness the true extent of human resilience. Alina and a team of 50 humans found themselves aboard an experimental ship of their own design, embarking on what was supposed to be a routine test flight. Suddenly, alarms blared as the ship was caught in a powerful tractor beam. "We're being pulled off course," Raj shouted from the engine room. "Some kind of spatial distortion." Before they could react, the ship was hurled through a wormhole, emerging in an unknown star system. As system failures cascaded through the vessel, they plummeted towards a foreboding planet below. Sarah, at the helm, managed to guide their descent, but the landing was far from smooth. As the dust settled, the humans found themselves stranded on a world that seemed designed to kill them. The atmosphere was thin and acidic. The landscape was a nightmarish blend of jagged rocks and pools of bubbling, corrosive liquid. Vicious storms of metallic sand scoured the surface at regular intervals. "Status report," Alina commanded, her voice calm despite the dire situation. "Ship's beyond repair," Raj reported grimly. "We've got emergency shelters, some supplies, and the fabricators. But that's about it. The planet's barely survivable," Zhao added, analyzing the environmental data. "We've got maybe a few hours in these suits before the acid eats through." Alina nodded, taking in the information. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. "Well then," she said, "let's get to work." What followed would become legend in the annals of galactic history. The humans immediately set about establishing a base camp, using the ship's wreckage as a foundation. Raj and a team of engineers worked tirelessly to adapt their fabricators to use local materials, producing acid-resistant structures in suits. Zhao led a group of scientists in analyzing the planet's ecosystem. To everyone's amazement, they discovered microbial life thriving in the corrosive pools. Within days, they had begun to engineer these microbes to produce breathable oxygen and neutralize the acid in small areas. Sarah organized defense and exploration teams, developing strategies to survive the planet's deadly storms and scouting for resources. Her military background proved invaluable as she turned the hostile environment into a series of defensible zones and trap-laden no-man's lands. Weeks turned into months, and the alien observers watching from hidden satellites were stunned by what they saw. Not only had the humans survived, but they were thriving. The initial camp had grown into a small city, protected by energy shields reverse-engineered from the little alien tech they had. Gardens flourished in biodomes, using genetically modified versions of the native microbial life to create Earth-like conditions. Most shockingly, the humans had begun to adapt physically. Joe's team had developed treatments using the local microbes that allowed humans to process the toxic atmosphere, slowly reducing their reliance on equipment. But it was Alina's leadership that truly terrified the watching aliens. She had turned the stranded expedition into a tightly knit community with a single driving goal: to reach the stars again. In the observation post hidden in a nearby moon, Ambassador Zixel watched with a mixture of awe and dread. "They're building something," he reported to the High Council. "Some kind of space elevator, I think. But the materials they're using, it shouldn't be possible with the resources on that planet." Arch-Counselor Zinthar's voice was heavy with foreboding. "How long until it's complete?" "At their current rate of progress, weeks, maybe days." The implications were clear. The humans were not content to merely survive on the Death World. They were using it as a staging ground to launch themselves back into space. As if to underscore this point, the observers noticed a new construction project beginning on the planet's surface. To their horror, they realized the humans were building a massive transmitter, powerful enough to send signals across the sector. "They mean to contact Earth," Zixel whispered. In that moment, the Galactic Confederation realized their terrible mistake. They had sought to maroon a group of humans on a death world. Instead, they had given them the motivation and opportunity to adapt, innovate, and prepare for expansion on a scale the galaxy had never seen. As the space elevator neared completion and the transmitter hummed to life, Alina gathered her people. Looking up at the stars, her eyes gleamed with a predator's patience finally rewarded. "Send the message," she commanded. "Tell Earth we're coming home." And then, she added, her voice carrying the weight of a species poised to claim its place in the cosmos, "We're going to have a long talk with our galactic neighbors." The hunt was on, and humanity was done being prey. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 1,000 worlds had gathered for an emergency session, their cacophony of voices, clicks, and telepathic projections creating a storm of anxiety and fear. Arch-Counselor Zinfar's crystalline form pulsed with agitation as he called for order. "We are here," he announced, his voice resonating through the hall, "to address the human problem." The words had barely left his mouthparts when the massive doors of the hall burst open. A hush fell over the assembly as a group of humans strode in, led by Alina. They were clad in sleek, intimidating armor that seemed to absorb light, a far cry from the primitive spacesuits they had worn mere months ago. Alina's voice carried effortlessly across the stunned silence. "I believe," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "you were talking about us." Ambassador Zixel, tentacles trembling, stepped forward. How did you get here?" "This session was meant to be secret." Sarah, the military strategist, chuckled. "You really should upgrade your encryption. It was child's play to intercept your communications." Raj, the physicist, added with a grin, "And your impenetrable planetary shield. Let's just say it's more of a suggestion than a barrier now." The assembly erupted into chaos. Some representatives called for immediate military action, while others pleaded for negotiation. A few of the more prescient beings began to edge towards the exits. Alina raised a hand, and to everyone's surprise, silence fell once again. There was something in her presence, a quiet authority that commanded attention. "We're not here to conquer," Alina began, her voice carrying a hint of steel beneath its diplomatic tone. "We're not even here for revenge, though some might say we'd be justified." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembly. "We're here to take our place in the galaxy. As equals, as partners, and yes, if necessary, as protectors." The hall filled with murmurs of disbelief and scoffs of derision. Arch-Counselor Zinfar's voice cut through the noise. "Protectors? You? A species we discovered mere months ago." Alina's smile widened, showing just a hint of teeth. "Oh, but you've done such a thorough job of testing us, haven't you? You've seen our strength, our adaptability, our resilience. You've witnessed our capacity for innovation and our ability to thrive in the face of adversity." She turned, addressing the entire assembly now. "But more importantly, you've seen our diversity, our ability to unify despite our differences. We don't just adapt to challenges, we evolve because of them. And now, we offer that strength to the galaxy." Zhao, the young xenobiologist, stepped forward, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "We've already begun developing technologies that could transform worlds you've written off as uninhabitable. Imagine the possibilities for expansion, for new homes for overcrowded species." Sarah nodded, adding, "And for those who have suffered under the threat of invasion or piracy, we offer our protection. Our military doctrine, forged through centuries of conflict and resolution, is unlike anything this galaxy has seen." Raj's voice brimmed with barely contained excitement. "The scientific advancements we could achieve together are limitless. We stand on the brink of understanding the very fabric of the universe itself." The assembly had fallen silent again, but this time, it was a silence of awe and dawning realization. The humans weren't asking for a place in the galaxy. They were offering a vision of a future that was brighter, more dynamic, and more secure than anything the Confederation had achieved in millennia of stagnant peace. Alina's voice softened, taking on an almost mesmerizing quality. "We are not the primitives you discovered, nor the weapons you tried to forge. We are humanity. We have crossed the stars, survived your trials, and emerged stronger. We have seen the wonders and the flaws of your civilization, and we believe we can help build something greater." She paused, letting her words sink in. "So, esteemed members of the Galactic Confederation, we ask you, will you join us in shaping the future of our galaxy?" The hall erupted once more, but this time the tone was different. There was excitement, curiosity, and yes, still some fear. But underlying it all was a current of hope, a realization that the galaxy stood on the brink of a new era. As debates broke out across the assembly, alliances already beginning to form, Alina turned to her team with a triumphant smile. They had done it. Humanity had not just found its place among the stars. They had become a catalyst for change on a galactic scale. Across the universe, on countless worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes looked up at the skies with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. The age of stagnation was over. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the grand tapestry of cosmic history, a new thread had been woven, vibrant, unpredictable, and undeniably human. The true apex predators had taken their place at the top of the galactic food chain, not through conquest, but through the very qualities that had once been seen as their weaknesses. Humanity, in all its chaotic, innovative, resilient glory, had fucked its way to the stars. And the best was yet to come.